Now on Indianapolis This Week.
Governor Pence's only education agenda is to prevent me from doing the job that the voters elected me to do.
Is Glenda Ritz ready to take her education fight into the race for governor? And what about dysfunction at the State Board of Education? We take our questions to her office. Plus, after the primary election, what lies ahead on the campaign trail? And should Indiana change its municipal primary system? And a new direction for an Indianapolis tradition, where the Circle City Classic is trying something old and something new.
RTV6, the Indy Channel. This is Indianapolis This Week with Rafael Sanchez.
Thank you for joining us for Indianapolis This Week. We start today focused on the nearly 2-year fight over education policy, one that may move the race for governor. State Schools Superintendent Glenda Ritz says that she is considering a run for governor, making that announcement during a visibly angry statement about Governor Pence and the legislative session. And just this week, another contentious meeting of the State Board of Education, and the governor signing a bill that would strip her of some of her powers on state policy. I had the chance to talk with her in her office Friday afternoon. Joining us now, Superintendent of Public Instruction, Glenda Ritz. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Are you running for governor, considering that John Gregg, your fellow Democrat, says that he's the one that can beat Mike Pence?
Well, I'm taking that under consideration. After this General Assembly, I announced that nothing's off the table. We have a governor who wants to have not have a shared responsibility with education and really just put it more in the hands of the State Board of Education. And so I have to consider what's best for families and children in the state of Indiana regarding education. And so I'm thinking about it.
Some call the State Board of Education a dysfunctional group of people. Your office will lose some power as chair of that board in 2017. Will you seek re-election to this office considering all of that is happening with that body?
So I actually am considering which position I may want to run for, but the members who serve on the State Board of Education, I have to work with all members who are on the State Board of Education. So however that turns out, I am committed to having a shared responsibility and making sure that we get things done for the kids in Indiana.
The governor has called the recent budget, as it comes to spending on public education, historic. In fact, more money is being spent on education than ever before. But some school districts are already saying that they're going to face layoffs because the budgeting will not, in many regards, support many of the urban and rural districts that are losing children. Have you been hearing from your fellow superintendents across the state who are saying, we're concerned about this budget?
Well, I guess what I do hear is that we have districts who are losing money, and that's always concerning. So we need to have an historic budget. To me, would be one that actually helped out all schools. All schools would see an increase. I wanted each of the schools to see an increase in their budget and making sure that we get what kids need in the state of Indiana. So regarding an historic budget, no, I guess I would say we got more funding for some and not for all, and that's always a concern for me.
There's always a concern in other states where we pit what they call rich districts versus the poor districts. Are you concerned at all that there's going to be that kind of difference in our state where we're going to go to a rural district and because they don't have as much children or they may be poor in nature that they're not going to have the funding to help kids with special needs or kids that have other issues?
Well, in Indiana, we actually have schools against schools all the time now for funding. So we have several different types of schools. We have public schools, and then you've got schools within that public set. So you got rural and urban and suburban and growing and not growing, and needing to support all of those schools. And then you also have, we got choice schools, we've got charter schools, we have lots of pots now, different groups of schools all vying for the same pot of money, and that's always concerning to me.
There were some new accountability rules that were passed on Thursday regarding the A through F, and that makes a lot of people nervous because obviously a lot of people look at those grades, not only parents but also for economic development. How will parents be able to read the new rules? Well,
they're going to be excited about the new rules. It's going to take us from a 4-point scale to a 100-point scale. For the first time, it's going to measure student performance and growth separately. We're going to be able to do that by individual students. I think the parents are going to be very pleased with the new accountability system. It's going to be fair. It's going to be transparent. All students will earn points, so to speak, for the schools for their performance, and then they will also earn points for their growth. And there can't be anything more exciting than looking at our assessment system in that kind of manner to have to assign grades to schools.
Now, my understanding is that this new system may produce fewer A's and fewer F's. Is that true, or?
Well, that means that remains to be seen, because we have a new assessment. So we're going to be making new cut scores on that new assessment. We'll be doing calculations. Schools will get a feel for what that will look like, because the new system won't take effect until 2015-16, after the 2016 assessment. So we'll get a chance to see really what that looks like, and what the how the grades will be assigned according to the new system.
You spent a lot of time on the issue of accountability. Is this the system? Is this it? Because parents have been so nervous about switching over to the A through F system. Is this the best system, or will you still have to tweak it?
Well, I've openly not been a proponent of assigning A, B, C, D, F categories, and that will be changed at General Assembly if it ever gets changed. But I want the system that informs those grades to be fair and transparent, and really represent what it is in terms of performance and growth for the students in our schools. So I think, we've got a system that's going to do as best we can to assign those grades. The board is committed also to actually looking at other multiple measures for schools other than test scores. So we're going to continue our study, even though we've passed the rule to initially begin the new accountability system. We want to make sure that we're continually looking at other multiple measures that really talk about why schools are great, and what does a great school look like.
The legislative session is over, but you're always looking ahead. So where do you want to move education in 2016?
Well, we have several initiatives that we're working on at the Department of Education. So early learning is a huge focus with us. We're getting ready to actually finalize the early learning standards, and we are utilizing a lot of federal dollars in some of our public schools for pre-K programming. We have Pathways to All Kids we're going to be launching here at the start of the school year to really talk about our kids in our high school, making sure that they have relevance to their learning and what does that look like, getting them excited about career paths and where that leads them when they leave our K-12 system.
Glenda Ritz, Superintendent of Public Instruction, we thank you always for sharing some time and letting us come into your office today.
Well, you are most welcome, Raphael.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. So here's the big picture of the 2016 campaign. And Democrat John Gregg has already announced that he's running for governor. Fellow Democrat and former Congressman Barron Hill is also considering a run, as well as a run for the U.S. Senate seat. And the incumbent, Mike Pence, is expected to run for re-election, but he has not made that announcement formal just yet. To another big story that has dominated the week, the violence in Baltimore and that city's connection to this Indianapolis's top cop. Metro Police Chief Rick Hite came to Indianapolis from Baltimore. He was part of that city's police department for more than 20 years, and he went back to that city after the violence erupted.
The question is Indianapolis in a position to have to go through the same rigors, and have we done enough work in the community and put chips in the bank of trust that if in fact it happened, we can reach out, find those indigenous leaders and have a conversation. I think we've done some of that. Whether or not that's enough, it's never enough. We're going to continue to do more. We got a brand new class of new recruits. We're teaching them how to be community policing expert. And I think, again, we have a good opportunity to learn from challenges across the country. It can happen any place when you don't listen, you don't give opportunity to people who really have something to say. You don't provide them with an opportunity to advance in their lives and give them really some sense of hope that something different is going to happen for them. If they've lived for decades in communities where nothing happened positive, or they've been exposed to the negative elements, including policing in some cases, you expect something to happen, because a crisis is never occurs based on a singular incident. So it had to be some other issues or challenges, precursors that led up to it. And you can't solve a crisis in a crisis. I think we're in a great place to learn. I think this is part of history, again, unfolding before our very eyes. And I think we have some of the best police officers in the business in Indianapolis. I think is there things to do? Still to do? Absolutely. Have we turned the corner? I believe we have. But I think there's more we need to do.
The chief also says that police also have to keep an eye on social media and challenging the energy from young people to make sure they know that they're being heard all the time. Coming up, the primary is over, now setting up with a showdown in the race for Indianapolis mayor. Plus, should Indiana change the way city leaders are elected? Our insiders tackle those questions and much more next on Indianapolis This Week. Welcome back to Indianapolis this week as we bring in our political insiders, Adam Kirsch, the former Marion County Democratic Party Executive Director, and Pete Seat, who worked for the Indiana Republican Party and in the communications office for President George W. Bush. Let's start with the aftermath of primary day. Laura and Abdul last week in this very spot said that, of course, that Joe Hogsett, the Democrat running in Indianapolis, is the one to beat. Is that true?
I think Chuck Brewer has a good chance of winning. Think back to this time before Greg Ballard became mayor, and no one took him seriously. He was the underdog. And it's about, one, getting your message out. I think both candidates will have plenty of funds to do that. But two, personally getting out to the neighborhoods, to community settings, and meeting with people face to face, giving them an opportunity to get to know you. And I think that's where Chuck will excel.
Willie?
Whether Brewer sells there or not, we'll see. He hasn't really been anywhere or done anything. He hasn't raised much money. Hogsett has about $1.5 million advantage on him. And while money's not everything, it certainly helps make a campaign easier. When
will we see the first TV commercial? Because now that we have the two official candidates, who will be the first one to go, and what will he say? Will the issue be public safety? Will it be
Joe Hogsett will, I think, be the first on television, and I think he will lead with public safety.
And will Chuck Brewer have to raise more money? Looking at the bank accounts right now, Mr. Brewer is the underdog.
Well, certainly he's going to have to raise more. I don't think he'll ever have more than Joe Hogsett, which is why it's so important to do the face-to-face interactions around the city.
Let's talk about the council races. Is it time to change how the turnout was abysmal? Is it time to change the way we elect our municipal officers?
Well, I would say I struggle with this because there's the parties on both sides work very hard to slate candidates and to clear primary fields, so there's only one choice. You know, I know in other parts of the state where people filed for absentee ballots only to have that request rejected because there was no one else on the ballot. And so when people want to actually vote and don't get to vote, I think that's a malpractice of democracy. So the idea is more competitive primaries, which get the media talking about the races more and get more people involved and engaged.
Our neighbor in Chicago actually does a consolidated nonpartisan primary. If any candidate gets to 50% plus one, they win on primary day. If nobody does, the top two candidates go on to a general election about 6 to 8 weeks later. If we had that system, Democrats win 14 seats on the city council and Joe Hogsett's mayor today.
You guys have worked campaigns. When you see a number like 7%, which is absolutely abysmal, what does that tell to the party structure, though? Does that say that you know, does that help you target neighborhoods? What does it tell you? Because people just were not interested in coming out to vote.
I think the
based on the numbers, right?
I think the big one is, one, when we look at turnout, we've got to look at raw numbers rather than percentages. Indiana has, I think everybody realizes, inflated rolls, and we don't have a good system yet to figure out how to get those rolls to reflect reality. When you look at raw numbers, then you look at percentage of how Democrats or Republicans in uncontested races got votes. And on that side, you saw more Democrats consolidate their base than Republicans did.
Is that the answer?
I think more than anything, it all speaks to apathy. And there's just this general apathy amongst the voting public that they don't want to be a part of the political process because they feel like it doesn't affect them. You know, everyone will watch the NFL or the Super Bowl, but they don't go out to vote because they just don't feel like it's important. And we need to make them understand that it is.
Or they'll watch Grey's Anatomy or Scandal.
That's right.
Let's talk about the U.S. Senate race right now. The campaign succeed Dan Coates. Marlon Stutzman from Northern Indiana now throwing his hat into the ring. How does this change the race, and can we expect more Republicans to run for the U.S. Senate? Well, we have one already. Eric Holcomb is also seeking the seat. Will we see more jump in?
Well, you know, I am biased in this.
You are biased because you are helping.
I'm helping Eric Holcomb in this race, but yes, Stutzman's joining the fray, and I'm sure there's going to be a good conversation moving forward. It depends on who you talk to, whether or not others may join in. Todd Young is still considered a possibility. Todd Rokita says he's still thinking about it.
I heard Susan Brooks is not interested.
Susan Brooks is out. Mike Delph is still kind of out there saying he may do this. Maybe even Jim Merritt. Who knows what will happen, but definitely you'll have Holcomb and Stutzman.
What Democrat will step up? Will it be Barron Hill?
I think you've got Christina Hale, State Representative Christina Hale from the north side of Indianapolis, who's taking a serious look and would be a tough contender. Barron Hill's been in the governor's race, out of the governor's race, in the Senate race, out of the Senate race. I don't know where Barron is right now.
You both are Colts fans. We had the Wells report come out this week saying that the quarterback you see right there knew something maybe about the Deflategate. What do you make of this report? What does that say about the state of sports and this competition, this rivalry that we have with the Patriots? They will be here in town later this fall.
I'll let you take this one first.
Well, A lot's been made of the language of the report, and quite frankly, it was written by an attorney, and I was talking with an attorney friend who said this is a attorney who would have gotten a conviction in a court of law but can't say it for certain. There's just no hard evidence. Tom Brady didn't cooperate with the investigation, refused to provide text messages, emails, and quite frankly should be suspended for
Though
a
his
number of
agent
games.
says that maybe some of his testimony was not in the report, so his agent is standing up for his guy, but of course he's getting paid by his guy, right?
He's doing his job. I mean, it all looks bad for Tom Brady, but from a broader point, this is about the NFL and whether they're going to take a leadership role in this misconduct, both professional and personal, that we've seen in the NFL over the past several years. They try and sweep it under the rug. They're more concerned about money and revenue and making the NFL the huge global brand that it is, rather than putting their foot down and stopping cheaters like it looks like the Patriots are.
We have 15 seconds, so will there be a fine or a suspension of Brady?
Suspension of Brady, fine of the Patriots organization.
You think so? Mm-hmm. You?
I hope so, but I hope it's not just a slap on the wrist.
Well, if you agree or disagree with them, the conversation between our insiders continues on every day on Twitter. You can find Pete and Adam along with Mary Beth, Lara, and Abdul, and join in on the debate. Coming up, it's an Indianapolis tradition, but get ready for some big changes this year for the Circle City Classic. The head of the Indiana Black Expo explains those and why they're happening next on Indianapolis This Week. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week as we talk about a tradition in our city, the Circle City Classic, an announcement about changes this year. Indiana Black Expo confirming that the game will change dates this year to be played on September the 26th and not in the traditional October time slot. They've also signed a deal to keep rivals Central State and Kentucky State playing in the game for at least the next 3 years. And tickets are on sale right now, so get your tickets. But joining us now first, Tanya Bell, the president and CEO of Indiana Black Expo. What an announcement, and what will this mean for this fall tradition?
Yeah, well, I think what it means is it's great to have a multi-year agreement because for planning purposes. So now, in order for us to be more strategic in the planning, we're not focusing on who's coming next year, and so I think that we'll be able to market it and really create a rivalry here in the Midwest.
What about my parade? You know, it's one of my favorite parades. Very vibrant. Will we still have the parade before the game?
Absolutely. Parade is a signature event as part of Circle City Classic, and so we will continue to have the parade and all of the other elements that are there. And so hopefully with moving it to September, some of the other advantages is better weather. Also, it will not bump up so closely to the homecomings of a lot of the universities that we sort of compete with. And so there were a few reasons why the September date made more sense.
Are you also looking to maybe increase attendance? I know that you've been concerned about waning attendance and increasing sponsorships. Is this an attempt to get more people to come and to make more money?
Absolutely. One of the things that we've done is we've sat down with both universities and really put the onus on all of us to make sure that we get folks in the stands. So this is really looking at a long-term partnership. To do that, we hope that the weather will be there for us in order for folks to come out and enjoy the game, and so absolutely attendance is a big issue.
Well, on weather, we'll talk to Kevin Gregory to give us great weather in September. Your theme this year is Buy One, Send One, because this event is not only about football, it's really about the bigger global idea that every child needs a good education.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a fundraiser in order to send Indiana students to college, and so really that's the point. Yes, we showcase HBCU football, the spirit and the tradition here in the Midwest, particularly in our backyard in Indianapolis, but it's also about sending our kids to college through scholarships.
How many young people will you be able to help this year, do you think?
Right. Over the past 30-some years, we've given out more than $3 million in scholarships. We'll give over $100,000 again this year, and so we're always looking to increase that number. So those ticket sales have that direct correlation. So when you buy a ticket, that's what you're doing. You're sending someone to college.
So I am ready for the Circle City Classic, but can you give us an insight on the Black Expo for the summer celebration? Patti LaBelle, who was on Dancing with the Stars, will be coming to Indianapolis. What can we expect for this year's summer celebration?
You're going to expect some good things. We have some announcements coming up this week. Okay. Some really good ones. I know you're trying to, get me to talk about them. So
well, I wasn't to, but if you want to make just a little one, we'll take a little one. I mean,
we have some really good things. We have some partnerships that we are in the midst of confirming, and I think that we have some things that are going to be some game changers. So I'll make sure that I'll definitely follow up with you continue to kind of talk about that later.
And that's another event that you also been focused on, increasing the attendance and increasing the involvement of the community. Is that the goal here, is to make it much more multifaceted and including more stakeholders?
Absolutely. You know, we're always looking at how to be inclusive for everyone and how to reinvent ourselves in order for there to be something for everyone. So, of course, we have the largest minority health fair in the world. That's part of it. But we're always looking at what other attractions can we add that will be appealing for everyone to come in. We have cultural arts pavilion with arts and entertainment and exhibits and boxing and fashion shows. And so for us, it's a matter of how do we get the entire community involved, because it's there for the community.
And of course, RTV6 is a proud sponsor of your events. We look forward to the big announcements coming this week. We'll talk off camera. You'll tell me something, right?
I sure will.
A little something.
We'll talk off camera.
Tanya Bell, thank you so much. Indianapolis This Week continues right after this.